Renzo, I've been meaning to ask you about this podcast that you and I are doing.
You mean the podcast that we're currently recording right now?
Yeah, this one, just a Spanish phrase,
Okay.
where every week we talk about an
explore.
idiomatic expression in
Exactly.
Spanish. Yes. We have a saying in Venezuela, and this is not the expression of this week, but it's
Oh.
related to the expression of this week. We have a saying in Venezuela that says the popular wisdom is wise.
Popular wisdom is wise. Wait, say it in Spanish.
La sabiduría popular es sabia.
Okay.
So all these expressions are supposed to have some wisdom behind them. You know,
yeah.
they're supposedly right. And but I think sometimes the expressions we discuss, like the expressions we are going to discuss today, is not necessarily true in terms of the wisdom they have.
Yes. I love that you just said that. In the research that I was doing, in thinking about this phrase, so often with expressions, whether they're in your native language or, as we're exploring in this podcast, in Spanish, it doesn't matter. It's sometimes you get used to them, you stop questioning them. They just become a secondhand, something that you just say because you're used to saying it, because you've heard it used 1,000 times before. But when you really start thinking about them, not only do you find, the fascinating history and origins of it, but sometimes you find that maybe like you said, the wisdom, the popular wisdom, isn't so wise.
Isn't so wise. Let's go straight to the expression today.
Yes. Okay. So in Spanish first.
Okay.
Dime con quién andas y te diré quién eres.
So tell me who you are hanging out with.
Yeah.
Who you surround yourself with, and I will tell you who you are. So, and the reason why this expression in particular made me think, it's because it pretty much encourages you to only keep friends with people who think exactly like you think. And I believe I like to have a diverse range of friends, or maybe not only friends, acquaintances.
Mm-hmm.
When I hear somebody who has a political opinion that is different than mine, instead of saying, I'm not even discussing with you, I'm actually curious to try to understand, to go to the bottom of things. Maybe because I'm a writer and I try to get those ideas.
You're always doing research.
Yes, maybe it's because of that.
Yeah.
But what do you think?
Oh, I completely agree. So I think we're tapping into this idea that to me is a relatively modern concept, at least for me, how I've heard it used, of the echo chamber, where you surround yourself with people that all have similar opinions or sometimes even the same opinion verbatim. And it really limits your ability to not only hear things that can challenge your view of the world, but it denies you the opportunity to have really good conversations. You don't always have to emerge from a conversation with a completely changed view of the world or changing your opinion on something, but it is still valuable and useful to listen to differing opinions.
And also, I don't want to be judged by the appearances. Like, for example, it's very common in Latin American countries. I'm sure in Peru that happens, but in Venezuela it happens where they ask you, where do you live? What school did you go to? And then they immediately make a profile of who you are based on, okay, are you high class, low class, middle class? Are you this, or that?
Yes.
And so it erases you as an individual. So, dime con quién andas y te diré quién eres is, if you're hanging out with metalheads, that means you
like people that listen to heavy metal. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily that way. I can hang out with many type of people and don't necessarily be like that. Of course.
Right.
We're not talking about really fanatics who are like maybe crazy, but you know what I mean.
Okay, so that brings up this phrase. How have you heard it used in the past? Immediately makes me think of, and this is like we've mentioned in many episodes before, makes me think of my abuelita, my grandma. She would say this phrase as a way to warn me against those undesirable friends, people who I shouldn't be hanging out with. But like you said, more often than not, it really wasn't about, that my grandmother knew anything about their character. It was about whether or not they checked certain social hierarchy boxes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, if you're friends with Epstein, that says a lot.
Oh, I was wondering how long we were going to wait until we brought up the Epstein list. Yeah, okay. So here is an example of the expression really hitting a kernel of truth, because in this case,
Tell me who you hang out with.
and I'll tell you who you are. Yeah,
I think so.
At the very least, it raises a lot of questions if you're on a list, one of these Epstein lists.
If you party a lot on
mysterious
that
lists,
island.
or that plane.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
It raises a lot of questions.
Yes.
So the origin of this phrase, right?
Exactly.
Where does it come from? Like so many of these popular wisdom phrases, it comes from antiquity. The concept is as old as the ancient tragedian Euripides, who wrote, "Every man is like the company he is wont to keep." Of course, that was in Greek. But later, we find it again in the Bible. So again, popular wisdom that gets passed on generation after generation. In Corinthians 15:33, we see bad company corrupts good character. Okay, so the idea has been around for a long time. No,
listen to
please
that.
tell me.
Yeah.
Let's repeat it.
Think.
Bad company corrupts good character.
It's funny because I was thinking the other day, when I live with somebody who is lazy, that motivates me to wake up early, go to the gym, be very disciplined, almost like not to let myself be corrupted by that. But when I live with somebody who is very disciplined, I kind of tend to sleep more and skip the gym, and
no way I can measure up to that person, and I'm just gonna
forget it. I'm gonna just stay and watch TV. What do you think? Does that happen to you?
Oh, it's tough for me because you mentioned being organized and being more responsible, and for me, I take inspiration from my wife, who is way more organized than me, and so I try to be a little bit more organized and responsible.
Okay, so, that's good. So she inspires you to be better.
Her good character. What's the opposite of corrupt? Doesn't corrupt me, but
I don't know. What's the opposite of corrupt?
That's a subject for another discussion. But going back to the origin, we have a very old concept, of course, this popular wisdom, which you mentioned at the beginning of today's episode. But in its modern phrasing, we first see it in this little book you may have heard about, El Quijote, from Miguel de Cervantes. Of course, so many expressions seem to come from that book, one of the seminal work of Spanish literature.
Spanish literature, definitely.
Yeah. But in that, we see, dime con quién andas, decirte quién eres. So almost word for word, the modern phrasing. But again, it's the same idea of if you tell someone who is in your social circle, who are the friends that you're with, you're revealing everything that needs to be said about your character.
Well,
yeah,
it kind of makes sense. But on the other hand, it reminds me of one of those sentences that my abuelita used to say.
Oh, yeah.
You don't only have to be good, you have to seem good. No solo hay que ser bueno, también hay que parecerlo.
Oh, about appearances, right?
Yes.
Presenting appearance.
You can be very good, but if you don't seem good, people are not going to know that you're good.
Oh, okay. So that bit of popular wisdom is actually quite useful because it's so true. You can be a very good person and do one thing that kind of labels you.
Exactly. So if you're a very good student, very good at school, but then you're hanging out with the kids from the neighborhood that are like lazy and creating trouble, then people are going to think you are a troublemaker too.
Of course.
So it does have certain sense. So we will let you, our dear listeners, decide for yourself if you think dime con quién andas y te diré quién eres applies to your life. And we also invite you to look for newsinslowspanish.com, where you'll have an entire catalog of expressions. And if you want to discuss, actually, if you agree or disagree with this expression, you can create
a room. Because on our website, News in Slow Spanish, we have a platform named Rooms where people can practice their Spanish in real conversations, live conversations with their peers, with native speakers, with yours truly.
But also you can practice conversation for beginners, for intermediate, for advanced, using progressive code switching so you can speak some English if you
That's
get
right.
stuck in a
If you
word.
need exactly.
The importance is to talk about ideas, to exchange ideas, because actually we want to hear from all kinds of people, not only ourselves.
That's right. And if you come to rooms and talk with all this wonderful group of people, you'll be in good company.
Yes.
Just like the phrase says.
All right. Adios. See
Until
you
next
next time.
time.